everyone, I'm Caitlin Dylan and Magno and we are the Group 8. Our topic for today is agrarian reform. As we all know, Philippines is an agricultural country. Our main source of livelihood is agriculture. For many years, the Philippines agrarian system was dominated by large landowners. It is a controversial program that has been a problem rooted in history. It is because the small farmers were struggling over the land and other natural resources. It was seen by the Americans as the main cause of revolts in the Philippines during colonial times. The Philippine government has implemented many land reforms since the 1930s, the most recent of which is the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law of 1988 or Republic Act 6657. So ano nga ba ang agrarian reform? What is agrarian reform? It is essentially the rectification of the whole system of agriculture. It is an important aspect of the Philippine economy. Because as I said kanina, Philippines is an agricultural country. That's why we needed agrarian reform para maipamahagi ang mga lupa sa mga magsasaka. Kasi, di ba, di naman uso ang titulo dati. Kaya ang nangyayari, madaming farmers ang nawawalan ng lupa dahil sa iba't ibang policies na ipinapatupad sa bansa natin. It is centered on relationship between production and the distribution of land among farmers, includes measures to modernize the agricultural practices and improving the living conditions of entire agrarian population. An integrated set of measures designed to eliminate obstacles to economic and social development arising out of defects in the agrarian structure. So ayun nga, pag kasi naririnig ng mga tao ang salitang farmer, ang tumatatak agad sa isipan nila ay mahihirap. Well, totoo naman talaga ito. Mas madaming, hindi ko naman sa nilalahat, pero mas madaming farmers ang mahihirap sa bansa natin. Well, in fact, sa ibang bansa naman is mayayaman ang mga farmers, 'di ba? Mas malaki pa ang kita nila sa mga professional. Yun yung mga na-search ko sa Google. Pero madami naman yung nakakaalam, 'di ba, na sa ibang bansa ang mga farmer is mayayaman. Ang ironic nga, 'di ba? Kasi sa atin na tayo pa yung agricultural country, sa atin pa yung madaming mahihirap na farmers. Kaya dapat pagtuunan ng atensyon ng gobyerno ang aspeto ng agrikultura. Kaya nabuo ang agrarian reform because it aims to uplift the poor Filipino farmers. However, the implementation of agrarian reform proceeded at a very slow pace due to the lack of political will and the redistribution of land is very slow. Ito na nga ang naging problema, hindi na ipatupad ng maayos. At up until now, di pa rin nagbabago. Well, in fact, it became worse, lalo na ngayon sa panahon ng pandemic. Next is Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law of 1988, or also known as Republic Act 6657. It is responsible for the implementation of CARP, or Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program in the Philippines. The law focused on industrialization in the Philippines together with social justice. The main objective of instituting this law was to successfully devise land reform. Ang land reform kasi is a hacienda type, wherein may amo ka and you're just a farmer in his or her land. Wala kang karapatan sa lupa na yon. Ang kailangan mo lang gawin ay cultivate, alagaan, hanggang sa makaani, and he will give you amount doon sa service na binigay mo. Ganun yung nangyayari. Kaya yun yung gusto nilang palitan. Yun yung gusto nilang mawala. Yun yung gusto nilang mawala na pulisiya. Yun yung land reform. Kaya nabuo ang agrarian reform. Now, let's proceed to the history of agrarian reform. Before the Spaniards came in the Philippines, we have already our own system. The land was commonly owned by the community called barangay. Barangay is a small unit of government. They believe in the concept of stewardship, where the relationship of the man and the nature is important. Sa panahong ito, lahat ay may access sa mga crops. Pantay-pantay lahat. As in, kahit ikaw yung dato, kasi dato ang pinakamataas ata dati, di ba? Dato, kahit ikaw ay isang alipin lamang or mababang class, is meron kang pantay na karapatan sa mga lupa, sa mga prutas, as in pantay-pantay lahat. Ngunit, however, in 16th to 19th century, which is the Spanish era, the land of the Philippines was owned by the King of Spain. Ito na yung pagsakop ng Espanyol sa ating bansa at inangkin nila agad yung lupa natin. So, the land was owned by the King of Spain and they introduced Pueblo agriculture, which is a system wherein native rural communities were organized into pueblo or village. So, hinati-hati na yung mga Pilipino. At ito ang naging dahilan ng pagkawala ng pagkakaisa ng mga Pilipino. Ang mga native families did not own a land. Instead, sila ay nagtatrabaho sa mga landowners at naaayon sa batas na kinakailangan nilang magbayad ng buwis gamit ang mga naaani nilang mga agricultural products. Diba? Ang saklap ng buhay dati kasi hindi na nga sapat yung perang kinikita mo at kailangan mo pa rin magbayad ng buwis. So, the law of the Indies awarded tracts of land. May tatlo yon. To religious orders, the encomenderos, large tract of lands was given to Spaniards para i-manage at may karapatan sila na tumanggap ng tribute sa mga native people na nagtatrabaho sa kanila. Ito na yung sinasabi ko kanina. Ito sila, ang tawag sa kanila is encomenderos. Last one is the reportamento. Ito yung mga lupang ibinibigay as a reward sa mga Spanish militaries. And the hacienda system has been developed in 19th century, and it's the new form of ownership. In 1860s, required sila na mag-register ng land holdings. Ngunit, ang nangyayari, hindi ito alam ng nakararami, kung kaya't ang mga lupain ng ibang tao ay naaagaw sa kanila at na-register sa ibang pangalan. Ito yung nangyayari, agawan ng lupa dati. Ito yun. Ang mga encomenderos naman ay inaabuso ang kanilang karapatan at mas lalo nilang pinalaki ang buwis, kung kaya't madaming Pilipino ang nawalan ng lupain at napilitang maging alipin sa mga Espanyol. Kasi kahit anong gawin nila na pagtatrabaho is mas lalong lumalaki ang buwis na sinisingil sa kanila ng mga Espanyol. Ang nangyayari, nabibenta nila yung mga lupa nila kahit hindi nila gusto. Kasi kung hindi ka makabayad ng buwis, is pipilitin kang singilin. Pipilitin kunin sa'yo yung lupa. And wala kang karapatang umayaw. Kasi pag umayaw ka, patay ka. Ganun ang nangyayari dati. Kung kaya't, ito ang naging dahilan ng Philippine Revolt. And the Philippine Revolutionary Government of Aguinaldo, sa pamumuno ni Aguinaldo, he declared landed estates, including friars, as government property to redistribute them, but did not happen. So, ang gusto lamang ni Aguinaldo na i-redistribute yung mga lupa. Kasi ito ang nagiging dahilan ng outrage ng mga Pilipino dati kasi nawawala na sila ng karapatan sa lupa kasi sa totoo naman sa kanila yung lupa na yon, inagaw lang talaga sa kanila ng mga Espanyol. Matapos ang pananakop ng mga Espanyol, ang mga Amerikano naman ang nagka-interes sa ating bansa. Americans have realized that being landless was the main reason of the revolt at that time. Gusto ng mga Amerikano na itigil ito, kung kaya't gumawa sila ng mga batas ukol dito. Isa sa mga batas na kanilang ipinatupad ay nasa Section 15, Philippine Bill of 1902. This law provided regulations on the disposal of public lands wherein a private individual can own 16 hectares of land while the corporate land holdings can avail 1,024 hectares. This also gave the rights to the Americans to own agricultural lands. So parang ang Amerikano ay Espanyol lang din. Ginawa nilang advantage ito para masakop ang Pilipinas. Ipinatupad din nila ang Philippine Commission Act No. 496 or also known as Land Registration of 1902. It introduced torrent system. Ito na yung torrent system to address absence of titles and accurate land survey. Kinakailangan ng mga private landowner ng patunay sa kanila nasa kanila talaga yung lupa, na mayroon silang certificate at titulo, ngunit sabi ko nga kanina, karamihan sa mga lupain ng mga Pilipino ay hindi na itala marahil sa kadahilan ng hindi nila alam ang batas at pangalawa ay wala silang sapat na pambayad upang magparehistro. Gayunpaman, naipatupad din nila ang Public Land Act of 1903, established homestead program that allows tenant to enter into agribusiness with 16 hectares farmland from Luzon and Mindanao. Sa Land Act of 1903, minigyan na ng 16 hectares na lupain ang mga farmers para i-cultivate nila, ganon. Ngunit ito lamang ay nagdala ng mas malaking problema dahil hindi ito naipatupad sa buong bansa at ang nangyari ay there's no limit to the size of land holdings people could own. Imbis na 16 hectares lang ang nangyari, wala nang limit. Kaya ito ay naging malaking problema. At ang makakabili lamang nito ay yung may mga kakayanan, like yung mga may pera talaga, as in yung mayaman. Makakabili ng lupa, makaregister and acquire fixed property titles. Hence, more lands are placed into tenancy that led to peasant uprising. So, mas lalo pang dumami ang mga alipin. Kasi, nawawala na sila ng pangkabuhayan kasi nawala na silang lupa na dapat taniman at para magkaroon sila ng hanap buhay. In May 2 to 3, 1935, happened Sakdal Uprising. Demanded tax abolition, pagkawala ng tax, equal ownership of land, immediate severance of ties with US. Si President Quezon bought haciendas, created National Rice and Corn Corp or NARIC, also known as NARIC, assigned public defenders for peasants' right to the land in Court of Industrial Relations. And however, he failed to budget allocation and failed due to budget allocation and peasant uprising. Hindi pa rin natupad ang kagustuhan ng Amerikano na mapaunlad at maayos ang sistema ng mga lupa. At ang nangyari ay sila ang nakinabang at ang mga Pilipino ay mas lalong naghirap muli. So, the Agrarian Reform after the World War II signed into law the Republic Act 34 established 70 to 30% sharing arrangements, regulating share tenancy contracts, ang paghahati sa pagitan ng kanilang kita sa tenant and sa landowners. 70% sa landlords and 30% naman sa mga tenants at hindi basta-bastang maaalis ang mga magsasakang walang lupa sa lupain ng isang landlord. President Quirino. Ngunit hindi ganon kaaktibo ang programa ni President Elpidio Quirino at ang programang ito ay itinawag na Land Settlement and Development Corporation o LADESCO. Sa panahon naman ni Ramon Magsaysay, and known as Man of the Masses, at nakilala dahil sa mga naitupad na mga programa sa usapang lupa, he transformed the Land Settlement and Development Corporation or LADESCO into National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration or NARA to accelerate resettlement program. He also established Republic Act 1199, Agricultural Tenancy Act, protects tenurial rights and enforce tenancy practices na kung saan ay dapat manatili ang mga tenants sa lupain ng landowners. Hindi dapat sila agad tinatanggal at hindi dapat sila agad ipinagpalit-palit na lamang. Nakapaloob din dito ang paglilinaw ng shared tenancy at nagkaroon ng leasehold na kung saan ay maaari munang rentahan ng mga tenants ang mga lupain ng landlords. And so next president is President Diosdado Macapagal. He established the Republic Act number 3844, the Agricultural Land Reform Code, na kung saan ay mayroong distribution of private lands to farmers on easy payment. Ibig sabihin, pwede nilang bayaran ang lupa ng hulug-hulugan, ganyan. And he abolished shared tenancy contracts. And our next president is President Ferdinand Marcos. Under sa kanya ay naipatupad niya ang Presidential Decree number 27, Code of Agrarian Reform of the Philippines. It shall apply to tenant farmers of private agricultural lands devoted to rice or corn under sharecrop or lease tenancy system, and landowner may retain not more than 7 hectares. So, dapat hanggang 7 hectares lang talaga. Dapat hindi na magsobra ang lupa. Kasi once na magsobra na yung lupa, they need to sell it sa ibang magsasaka. Also, land acquired through this decree is non-transferable except by hereditary or succession. So, hindi mo lang ito basta-bastang maipamigay kahit kanino lang. Sa panahon naman ni President Corazon C. Aquino, she provides under Section 21 under Article 2 that the state shall promote comprehensive rural development and agrarian reform. She enacted the law Republic Act No. 6657 noong June 10, 1988, or which is also known as Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. Now, up until now ay naipapatupad pa rin. It promotes social justice and industrialization. And another law is Executive Order Number 228 na ipinatupad noong July 16, 1987, declared full ownership to qualified farmer beneficiaries covered by the Presidential Decree 27. Kasi under kay President Marcos is nalimit lang ang kung ilang hectares ang makukuha ng mga farmers, which is 7 hectares lang. And another one is the Proclamation Number 131 on July 22, 1987. It instituted the CARP as a major program of the government. Diba ang CARP is the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program. It provided for a special fund known as the Agrarian Reform Fund or ARF, with an initial amount of 50 billion to cover the estimated cost of the program from 1987 to 1992. So, only for 5 years. 1987 to 1992. So, 5 years lang ang coverage ito. And she also enacted the law Executive Order Number 405, June 14, 1990, that the Land Bank of the Philippines has the responsibility to determine land valuation and compensation for all lands covered by CARP. When President Fidel V. Ramos formally took over in 1992, ang mga tao ay nawalan ng confidence sa Agrarian Reform Program. And he amended, and under the Republic Act Number 7881 noong 1995, amended certain provisions sa Republic Act 6657, and exempted na ang fish ponds and prawns sa coverage ng CARP. And he also enacted the Republic Act 8532 noong 1998 or Agrarian Reform Fund Bill na nag-provide ulit ng another 50 billion for CARP and extended its implementation for another 10 years. Kasi diba yung kay President Corazon is for only 5 years. So nag-extend for another 10 years. Another president para sa agrarian reform is si President Estrada. Sikat siya sa phrase na ERAP para sa mahirap. This was the battle cry that endeared President Joseph Estrada and made him very popular during the 1998 presidential election. Under his administration, he launched the Magkabalikat para sa kaunlarang agraryo o magkasaka. The DAR forged into joint ventures with private investors into agrarian sector to make FBs competitive. However, the Estrada administration was short-lived. The masses who put him into office demanded for her ouster. So, yung mga taong bumoto sa kanya as president is nagdemand na ipatanggal siya sa kanyang posisyon. Malaking issue yan dati. Another president is President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. The Agrarian Reform Program anchored on the vision of her that to make the countryside economically viable for the Filipino family by building partnership and promoting social equity and new economic opportunity towards lasting peace and sustainable rural development. And she provided support services to beneficiaries of land distribution, credit assistance, extension services, irrigation facilities, roads and bridges, marketing facilities and training and technical support programs. And on August 7, 2009, passed Republic Act 9700, the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program extension, with reforms extending the deadline of distributing agricultural lands to farmers for 5 years. So yun, na-extend na naman for another 5 years.
Good day everyone. So I am Catherine C. Araneta and I am tasked to present the Agrarian Reform history during late President Benigno Aquino III and our current President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. President Benigno Simeon Coangco Aquino III, his presidency started from 2010 to 2016. The main reform that he established was the CARPER, or Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program extension with reforms. So, what is CARPER? It is the mandatory law that extends again the deadline of distributing agricultural lands to farmers for 5 years. It also amends other provisions stated in CARP. Kung atin pong matatandaan, ang CARP ay centerpiece program ng kanyang mauna na si President Coangco Aquino. So itong CARPER po ay parang extension lamang ng CARP. The younger Aquino distributed their family-owned Hacienda Luisita in Tarlac. Apart from the said farmlots, he also promised to complete the distribution of privately owned lands of productive agricultural estates in the country that have escaped the coverage of the program. So, next is our current President, Rodrigo Roa Duterte. The issue under land reform has been persistent even up to the present. So, hindi pa rin po nare-resolba ang issue tungkol sa reforma sa lupa sapagkat hindi po lahat ng agricultural lands ay nasasakop sa CARP. So, under his leadership, the President wants to pursue an aggressive land reform program that would help alleviate the life of poor Filipino farmers by prioritizing the provision of support services alongside land distribution. The DAR created an anti-corruption task force to investigate and handle reports on alleged anomalous activities by officials and employees of the department. So now I'll discuss about Agrarian Reform Program of our government, or Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program under Republic Act number 6657. Ano nga ba ang CARP? Ito ay isang pagsisikap ng pamahalaan upang pagkalooban ang mga walang lupang magsasaka at manggagawa sa bukid at pagmamayari sa mga lupang sakahan. Ito ay sinabatas ni Pangulong Corazon C. Aquino noong June 10, 1988 at nakadakdang lubusang may sa katuparan pagdating ng 1990. Ano sa programang ito na ang lahat ng agricultural land sa buong bansa ay idiniklarang Agrarian Reform Area. Mga tenant farmers, farm workers, agricultural workers, seasonal man o hindi, ay maaring maging beneficiaries ng programang ito. So, the CARP, this was designed for tenant farmers na walang lupa. Ngunit sa case naman ng mga tenant farmers na may mga pagmamayari ng lupa, pwede pa rin silang maging beneficiary at mag-apply sa CARP as long as ang total land niya ay hindi lumalagpas sa 3 hectares. Ngayon, kung ikaw ay isang tenant farmer, pwedeng mapasayo ang lupang sinasaka mo Ngunit, ito ay hindi libre. Babayaran po ito sa Land Bank of the Philippines. Babayaran ng 30 years installment sa Land Bank. 6% per annum. Saan po binabase ang installment? Binabase po yan sa magiging gross harvest ng lupang sinasaka. May formula po dyan ang DAR and Land Bank of the Philippines kung magkano at saan binabase ang inyong amortization if covered ng CARP. So, what will happen kapag ikaw ay awardee na ng Agrarian Reform Program? May mga restrictions po like hindi pwedeng ibenta o ilipat sa iba ang lupa. Sa pamilya lamang pwede, sa gobyerno, or sa Land Bank of the Philippines. Pwede itong isang lang. Ang mga awardee naman ng CARP ay binibigyan ng Certificate of Land Ownership Award or LOA. Ngunit, ang certificate ito po ay hindi titulo ng lupa. Pag paid na after 30 years dun sa ginabayaran po na term lease po ng lupa ay saka pa po lamang bibigyan ng titulo. Ang Land Bank po ang magbibigay. So, ano nga ba ang mga qualification upang ikaw ay maging beneficiary ng CARP? Kailangan ikaw ay at least 15 years old, may inclination to cultivate a land, landless ka, or kung meron kang lupa ay hindi lalagpas sa 3 hektarya. At dito po nagtatapos ang aming diskusyon. Maraming salamat po sa pakikinig.